I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. That's age relative.
Yeah, go watch Popeye. Y'all get it.
Yeah, there you go.
Help me with hip hop. Let's get it right. Protect your patience. Day and night. Donna and David, the experts on your side. Help me with hip hop. Let's get it right.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about the financial impact of data breaches, because we're going to talk about measuring that. We've talked about this before. We went through the Verizon DBIR, the Data Breach Investigations Report. And, one of the biggest questions that comes out of this, not just from us, but from other people, is, great, this is good information. How much is it actually costing these people that have these breaches, these problems? What is the financial impact? And although we can't really know specifically, like, this data breach happened and this is how much it costs, because we get into the fact that a lot of this stuff is anonymous information, reporting and everything. But Verizon has put together, and we'll go over this today, a 2026 breach impact study, which does look at the financial cost of data breaches.
Yes, it's their very first one.
I know. I love the fact that the opening is, if this is the first time you've read this, oh, wait a minute, this is absolutely the first time you've read this, because this is the first one we've done.
Yeah, we love these guys. Their humor in there, it's awesome. Yeah, we have. I pulled out some of their humor that we can use as we go through, because it's funny. I don't care who you are.
You got to do something to make it funny.
I know, right?
I mean, when you're in the cybersecurity space, you've got to find ways to make things funny. Otherwise, you just will rock yourself in the corner and cry all the time.
I know. We couldn't be less nerdy or whatever you want to call it, but we're just going to be who we are so that we can get through it ourselves.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about this report, because you pulled out a lot of really good information here, and it's interesting that the way they decided to do this was they went and looked at insurance claims.
Yeah, they partnered with an organization called Cyberattacks, and that's founded by the global cyber insurance market. The people that sell the insurance have these people doing data collection, analysis, intelligence, helping them analyze, what the market is doing. And so the research team that does the data breach got data from them and kind of worked together to figure everything out that was in there. So they pulled 70,000 cyber insurance claims in the United States, and roughly 38,000 had recorded losses paid out to the policyholders. So I'm not sure what the other ones were, but
I want to stop right there, because there are some people that are going, 70,000 in cyber insurance claims. I didn't think there were 70,000 data breaches ever in the history of recorded time.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, because you only hear about the big ones, and even of the big ones, you don't hear about all of them. So,
yeah. Well, and it doesn't really make a huge difference, but they cover from January 1st, 2019 to October 31st, 2025.
Okay, so 5.5 years, somewhere thereabouts.
Yeah. And so they also left out, when they did some of the math, they were like, we know that these insurance claims stay open for a long time. So they kind of took the 2025 one and said, we're not going to put that in all the math. We can look at it from a total number, but when we're looking at statistics, that may not be a complete number.
Yeah.
And so we're able then to get, we did episode 563. So 7 weeks ago, we did the episode on what's in the data breach report, which is telling us how this is happening, how the attacks occur. So if we're getting how the attacks occur, then what does this one tell us? It's
Yeah, tells us what we should be mostly concerned about, which what's it look like when it comes out of our pocket?
Yeah,
And-
it's like this is how they broke into the house in the last report, and this new report is what it cost to clean it up after they trashed it. So
yeah.
that's not that ever happens, but once they've been in on a data breach, it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's
And this also is not every incident that's ever happened, because I know and I've certainly been part of a number of data breaches that never made it to insurance.
Or they didn't even have it, or they knew they didn't have enough. And, and then you have the ones where there's data breaches that no one ever knew about, but, there's somehow they were able to tell those differences in the DBIR, which we always thought was interesting. The ones that they would see out on the dark web, but they didn't seem to see matching numbers for it in the reports. So we get from that, from a risk analysis standpoint and risk management standpoint, we're able to see now DBIR gives us likelihood. And this is they call it the BIS, the BIS, the BIS, BIS. Business Impact, what is it? They call it BI, Business Impact Study. So you get likelihood from DBIR, you get impact from BIS, and what does likelihood times impact equal?
Risk.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
One of the longest board games you've ever played.
I know. Ever. Weeks. But the fact that it's anonymous then makes it a little easier, and we're able to get some financial stuff that, the other thing is that they point out right away that they aim to provide an objective and data-driven measure of organizational financial impacts while maintaining the academic lens and statistical rigor our readers expect.
Yeah.
So it does give us, though, a new way to approach that risk calculation. For all the people that'll be like, well, the impact won't be too bad of that. I might want to rethink that when you start thinking some of this through. And by the way, on the thing where they said, when they were talking about this, they said the nerdy humor point, the study comes from the desire to answer our loyal readers' third most frequently asked questions. I'm like, third most? Why doesn't the in-depth analysis financial impact? Okay, then it says, of course, they have a footnote, and they said that it's third base. There's a tie for the other two on what's 1 and 2. Why don't these numbers add up to 100%, which they have to talk about all the time, every time we do a report? And did you really think that footnote was funny? Why, yes. I would say yes.
Yeah.
But
well, it is worth saying that, you may be asking yourself, why does Don and David cover these so frequently? I'm glad you asked, because with better information, you are able to make better decisions. And that's why we cover these.
Good point, Mr. Sims. Good point. So let's see if we can avoid the math ain't mathin', because the math will not do what people expect it to do in this report. And
It's
they
the new
give
math.
you, it's like it's not going to be able to do that. They can't make it do that.
It's quantum
But-
physics. It does crazy stuff. It's not observable, but it happens.
So first they make a point of saying they use insurable loss. And that's the number they're looking at. That's not actual financial loss. because you don't know what that is.
Right.
It's like, it could be lower. You don't know what would impact it. And then you got all kinds of things that could impact what's insurable, deductibles and coverage, and that's not covered. This is, and there's limits on that. There's so many things.
Mhm.
So what they're saying is this is what the insurance companies paid out, and they add back in deductibles that were taken out of it. So you get the total amount of the insurable loss. They could have lost way more. So got to keep that in mind. You have to consider these numbers conservative. Very conservative. Somebody might have a $50,000 policy and have, $1 million of loss. All that would show up is the 50,000, right? And
Yeah.
it could have a 3 million. You don't know. So adding that back in there, it makes it a little easier if you don't try to think of this as actual. This is how much insurance gave back. There you go. How much insurance said your pain was worth. But they do give us something, that we can use to judge things by. That's not just us pulling some number out of the air, which I can do that when I have to based on knowledge and experience, but I would prefer to have actual researched statistical data that you can count on and not just making it up. So I
Not
like
just
that.
a scientific wild guess.
Swag. It's a swag. But we always do try to, they make a point that, people really do like quoting our numbers and sharing our numbers. So they said, you are permitted to include statistics, figures, and other information from the report, provided that you cite the source as the 2026 breach impact study, which that is the source we are covering today, and the content is not modified in any way. So we are explaining what we found interesting and giving you exact quotes and content from them. That's about as close as we can get to meeting every little crossing. What is it? Dotting the I's and crossing the T's, not crossing the I's and dotting the T's.
Well, you can do that. I don't know that.
I know it doesn't. So the other piece that they throw in there. So now we know we're looking at this. So we're getting all of these 38,000 claims from the United States over that period of time where insurable costs were paid, which I wonder what happened with the others.
I want to study on the ones they didn't pay.
Yeah, why are those not in there? But then they pointed out, and again, here's their humor, is they're explaining that they're not going to talk in averages because averages get blown out of the water with outliers. So everything's in a median, and I'm a math nerd, so I get excited when we talk means and medians and all that kind of stuff. But to reiterate the point about it, it was kind of fun. They actually have a subheader on a page that says, insert impactful subheader here. That's it. And it has a footnote on it, but that is indeed a big header, text header. And then the footnote, because of course they would do something like that. The footnote says, get it? We'll be talking about impact in this subsection. And I'm wondering if somebody did that just to be funny when they were working on it and decided just to leave it. That sounds like something we'd do. Hey, we both thought that was funny, so we just left it. But that's the kind of nerd humor we like to see. But also on that same page, there was another interesting footnote where they brought up the fact that they're using the median. So the median is the middle number. It's not the average where you take the highest, the lowest, the number, and here's all of these. What's the middle number? And they pointed out the BIS, and this is the footnote exactly as it is written. I love it. It made me laugh because they're right. I'm just saying they are not wrong. The BIS BIS will not publish what the average is on purpose. So the amount does not get picked up by large language model aggregators and posted all around social media. Next thing you know, we got the average breach cost $4.8 million or something crazy like that. And we hate those. We always say, don't read the headlines. And now you got AI picking it up and making it worse. So they're not even putting the text in there.
Oh, should we do we forgot to do this. It just popped into my head because we were talking about social media. We ended last episode talking about the security rule, and we were going to bring it up earlier in this episode, and we forgot.
Oh, yeah, because we still forgot.
We did. But the whole thing about social media and people, talking about stuff.
Yeah.
So side note. If you
pause.
So we're taking the rabbit trail right quick. Stay with us. We're making a hard 90-degree turn. We'll be back. So for those of you who are waiting for the security rule changes to drop in May of 2026, you may have noticed they didn't, which we told you they weren't.
Yeah.
However, there is now evidence from the powers that be that it may drop in July of next year.
Yes. 2027.
Yes.
And on there, it says there are extensive changes, that it involves extensive changes, and it will be expensive to do. It even says all of that on there. So as we've said, this will not be small. But then they gave us another very valuable piece of information in that same section, where we talked about there's this privacy rule thing that's been hanging out there. And I told you we're going to see some, if not all of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That now says August 2026.
Oh,
so
coming up.
And it's in its last stages. It's been listed as being in its last stages since April. And there's been several meetings about it that have gone on and on. So we're going to see that final rule, I would expect, actually, in August, like they have it listed. And, barring some, you never know, when one might have to take a hard right turn down a rabbit hole and then come back. But here's what it means. It means that you're going to have a lot of privacy rule to evaluate and determine what applies. Even if you are a business associate, don't pretend, it doesn't matter to us. You need to have somebody make sure that none of it applies. And it changes a lot of things like the NPP, and there's things that should change, and we'll see what they are. But it's really intensive in policy and procedure land. And that means updating them and doing training and all of that. So by the time you get all that rolled out,
it'd be time for a security rule.
The security rule ought to be creeping right back up on us. So at least it's spreading it out.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope that you did not get whiplash as we change subjects.
Now we're back.
Now we're back to our regularly scheduled program. So the impact, let's see here. BIS, we went through that. Social media. Okay, here we are.
Yeah. So they're not going to put us in a place where searches and AI end up running away with these giant numbers. They specifically want to keep reasonable numbers that are more appropriate from a risk management standpoint. Mm-hmm. And it's what we always say is, don't read those headlines. You need to make your decisions based on real numbers. And you get those 4.8 million number and everybody glazes over and says, well, it's not going to matter. or it's no big deal. We can cover that. Something along those lines. But what we want you to ask is, what will it cost if we get hit? It's also asking, what kind of costs are most likely to have the biggest impact if we do get hit? Because there's all kinds of cost involved. So we always used to do the Ponemon IBM study on the cost of a data breach. and
Right.
they did some that were healthcare specific. And we would use those numbers because that would tell us where to invest your efforts.
Right.
Because, even when we do executive reviews of our assessments, I try to base the recommendations on getting the biggest reduction in risk and the most value if your data breach occurs. And we would get that information from there. And it's good they haven't done that report in a while. And so it's good to be able to get it in a different way. And, the folks that are always looking for, we need to do our risk management plan so we get quick wins. But if that quick win doesn't really move your exposure needle at all, is it really a win? It's just a psychological one,
Yeah.
And so that's what these numbers are going to kind of help us see. So let's start from just the big overall economic impact, as they call it, of the median. So in 2019, overall, the thousands of cases, the insurable amounts, median 61,124. So if you had a
Dollars.
data breach,
Mhm.
yes, dollars, not pennies, dollars. By 2024, that number is now over $110,000.
Ooh, that's a big raise.
Yeah, a big, big increase. But you think about from 2019 to 2024, there's been a massive amount of change. Like every day.
Yeah.
And from whether it's cybersecurity or your business, everything. We've been going through a dramatic period of change.
Oh, yeah.
So I like the quote they used that the median had increased. It was the equivalent consumer price index inflation in the United States for the time period was around 23%. So if you heard 23% inflation, your hair would be on fire and you'd be running around.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's growth. It's just not the kind of growth you want.
It moves the needle.
Yeah, just the wrong way.
But
here's
the
each
thing
year
too
a little
is
bit.
when you look at, I'm going to bring in spending for cybersecurity, but when you look at what are you doing differently as an organization and what are you investing in cybersecurity to protect yourself from these things? Like if there's no difference and yet the increase in the economic impact is growing every year, it's like you're going backwards.
Yeah, well, or you're just, gambling a lot more money than you thought you were.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the king's new clothes. That's what you are.
So, it's overall, though, those are the big overall numbers, and they did break it out and look at it. They had an SMB segment, a mid-market, and they said less than 25 million in revenue. That's the SMBs. And then 25 million to 250 million in revenue is mid-market, which then we'll assume that you'll figure out on your own what large enterprise is. But the good news, it was only a modest increase from that time period, but it's $38,406 for SMBs is where we are. And the lowest number they showed was 26,000. So still, it doesn't matter how you look at it. Everybody's like, okay, that's not as painful as I thought. Okay, but remember, very conservative numbers. And one of the things in the very small dollar amount, they made some points of what they said because they went and looked at that further. And they said, but wait, there's more. They said, don't take much comfort in it because we looked further. Basically, the big enterprises, they lose $1 million. Ouch. Oh, my goodness. They don't even notice. But, a small physician's office loses $100,000. That's huge. It's can people be paid? Can we do the business we were going to do? We've even seen them where they don't even stay in business. So they said, all right, let's look at the percentage of revenue of the losses that we're experiencing or we're evaluating here. So basically, in the worst case, that cyber losses could even exceed 7% of annual revenue for a small business.
Wow.
Yeah. And, if you're looking at, okay, I think the number was like 3% was where they considered kind of like the mean, but it could go up from what they said. So that is the same thing that we keep telling folks about when, you're buying cyber insurance. And a lot of times people just buy it because somebody told them they needed it.
Mhm.
Right. And it's like, how much do we need? I don't know. How much did Fred get, or tell Barney to get the same as us. But if you don't sit and think that through and say, all right, if we're down for 3 weeks, what would we need to keep us up and running and to get through the data breach? That's a different question than do you have cyber insurance?
Yeah.
And how many times have we talked about the answer of, well, I don't worry about it because we got insurance.
A lot, unfortunately, still. And I don't think people understand oftentimes that the insurance part, it matters, but it's not about the total cost of getting you back in business. It would be like if you had a data breach and I just walked in the door and I'm like, how much money do you need to get back going? Your response would probably be, I don't just need money. I need like my systems back up and running. I need my data recovered. You got a laundry list of things you need. So it's not just about somebody writing you a check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got to get contracts done. You got to get people in the right place. You've got to know these people. You have to have a lot of information. The importance of a response and recovery plan when you're in these crises it just can't be overstated. And you have to know what your insurance is going to help you do. Sometimes they can get you cash to be able to hire the people you need to get or to go get equipment that you need because something you've got to try to bring something up, a remote site or something like that. All right, well, I'm going to just need to go buy that. And, and then there's always, well, submit the receipt and we'll review it and send you a check. And I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. That's age relative.
Yeah, go watch Popeye. Y'all get it.
Yeah, there you go. But if you don't even know how much you needed, and a lot of times we'll ask how much is your coverage, and have you ever seen them go, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever had anybody that can answer that question. I think the closest I've ever had is somebody says, I know we have it, but it's probably not enough.
That's a fair statement.
Yeah. But the other side of it is you could have it and it might be too much, honestly. So you should be reviewing these things. I would say every year reviewing these policies.
Yeah. Not just renewing, reviewing.
Exactly. Reviewing. Absolutely reviewing because a lot can change in a year, like a new security rule.
Yeah. But yeah, the big change is used to incident response was the most expensive thing. And back we saw that for years and years and years. But over time, well, they have what they call it, the 4 L's, the losses. They have the DBIR has 4 A's, the actions that cause a breach or something. And then they have 4 L's. It's cool. But go dig into it. You can learn very details about the different ways you lose money. But we're just going to... It's lost due to blah, lost due to blah. Moving on. But the number one pain point that you're losing money on is business interruption now.
Yeah.
And, that, and I think, I don't know. Now, this is pure speculation on my part, which y'all we know how that could go. Is that I think in the past, you could just restore and kind of keep going. But now you're dealing with extortion. We stole your data.
Yeah.
You're no longer just trying to restore and deal with, the potential notifications, you've got a much bigger problem. And also, it takes longer to figure out just what they were able to do, which means more downtime.
Yeah.
And more downtime is also impacted when you have multiple, supply chain vendors might be involved. There's so many variables that are creating that downtime. And, any numbers that could be like average downtime, those got thrown away because you do have these wide variables that impact what that downtime is. But the bottom line is, if you're no longer operating your business properly, that costs way more than most people expect to
Mm-hmm.
To keep you up and running. Because let's see, the overall median number just for business interruption, if they look just at that, $90,000. And the
Yeah.
top number of that was 4.8 million just for business interruption. Now that's across the board, but the big jump from 2023 to 2024, it was like a 51% growth of losses due to business interruption.
Wow.
And I think there's a lot of variables that are involved in that. And they even say across all years, business interruption losses as a whole contingent or not, account for 50% of total known loss amounts in supply chain or third party incidents. Because then you're down and you don't have any control.
No, none at all.
Yeah. So they really bring it back to, you may have bought your insurance when it was, recovery was the most expensive thing. And now it's not the most expensive thing and you're not covered for it.
Yeah.
So it does show that, yes, you still need response and recovery. No doubt about it. And I would not change that from being, if you don't have a reasonable response and recovery effort, which I don't know, I have to look up when this one comes out. Hopefully it's before Operation Vital Signs. Go check it out. Search for Operation Vital Signs, or you can go to healthsectorcouncil.org and learn about it there. HISAC is hosting it. Cardin's got some folks in the club we're doing it with and helping them out to do it. But the whole idea is a nationwide tabletop exercise. So it's going to be interesting because I can't figure out how they're going to make it work. But hey, not my job. So you need to go back and, like David said, look at your insurance. Don't just renew, review. And it's you don't check that box, do you, David? Just check the box.
No.
Or, send it to David to fill out and then just send it in.
That does happen.
Yeah, I know, right? But you've got to look. Threat landscapes have changed. Your business has changed, and where the losses are being seen across the board has changed. Now, your policy has not. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So we'll move on from there.
But surely your insurance provider would come to you every year and tell you all the new things that are out there and tell you how much more insurance you needed, right?
Mine don't. I don't know about you.
I don't either. That's what I'm saying. It's like, don't think. Now, some people may have it, but, I don't know of anybody that has somebody coming and going, look, we evaluated for you every year what your insurance needs are, and you're not meeting those needs. I mean, if it's not happening, you have to do it yourself.
Well, yeah, you just ask whoever to come do it. If you're working with a broker, that makes it certainly a lot easier because they can help you make those decisions and evaluate it. But I personally, we constantly battle evaluating insurance, even as a tiny business like ours. of understanding where we need to be covered and what does cover what, and the different variables that are involved in everybody's business. No two are exactly the same. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, the last question you really want to be asking when something like this happens is, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah.
Because the real answer is because it's your responsibility, not somebody else's.
And that's unfortunately what a lot of people miss, and is I don't, well, it's somebody's job to tell me. Not necessarily.
No.
No.
Well, the other thing too is it's like we've tried to tell you, but you wouldn't take a meeting. We've been trying for 6 months to get you to take a meeting with us to tell you, and you wouldn't do it.
Yep, there's that. It is one of those things where you can't just outsource the entire liability, and that's what so many people treat insurance like. And hiring an IT person is, an MSP. You're still responsible for your company's operations, and that's the hard part for a lot of people to see. Mm-hmm. So let's move on to healthcare. Get into that real quick. They did do one pagers on all the different sectors and what the costs were, and healthcare. Let's see, they had 8,643 total claims. 5,100 had recorded losses. The percent of known total losses. So where was the money going? Response and recovery, business interruption, external liability. And this will be, David loves whenever this phrase comes up. The liability part in healthcare is relatively high. The median loss for life is 57% higher than the overall median for everybody else. And that's because of the level of liability you have with this super valuable data. And when you take that and multiply that the different types, and they were looking at the different types of claims, we can't say it's the incident, but claims were filed due to this. There was a ransomware claim filed 39% of the time. 22% of the time, it was your favorite, David.
Business email compromise.
Yes. And it doesn't matter how you look at it. Some people are like, oh, that only matters if they're stealing money from you. No, they're stealing something.
Honestly, I think that's probably higher because a lot of times business email compromise is what starts, then it ends in ransomware. So,
yeah, you're absolutely not wrong there. But when you look at the numbers, the losses from ransomware, it's going again back to the ransomware is the most, but we already know healthcare is hit more frequently with ransomware and extortion now than any other sector.
Mm-hmm.
Period. But then when we look at where are those losses, where is that? It's still the same as when you're evaluating let's see, what is the response and recovery is 19,400 of the total. The mean loss to threat actor, meaning somebody paid them, is right at 49,000. External liability, that's where you got the regulators. But as we point out, the regulators are the least of your concerns. I mean, we don't see that many people paying the regulators. 20-something different cases a year ever announced. So, yeah, it's the biggest, or it pops up at 36,000. So you got 49,000 because they're paying it off, because they have to pay it off. They got to get back up and running. But not only that, they're not just encrypting. In fact, sometimes they're just stealing the data and holding it for ransom.
Yeah.
And in healthcare, you got a big problem with that. You can't go, well, I'm not paying them so they can disclose all the patient data on the dark web. Off you go now. But business interruption, still, right, is 35.8, so 36,000, we'll call it, is business interruption. So they look at is the 103,191 in healthcare.
Oof.
That hurts. That hurts. That's the overall 103,191. And it's a lot of issues when you look at when you say, okay, number of times I've heard people go, well, we have a $50,000 policy. First of all, everybody's like, oh no, because that don't cover anything. It didn't cover anything in 2019. You know, 2 or 3 phone calls in the first 2 or 3 days, and you're gone. You're done by the time you get all those people that are needed. But when we look at the dominant claim being ransomware, and then in healthcare, what that means because of the victims and having to pay. And yes, that's a big deal, but having a healthcare entity down is huge. And I don't know. For me, that's what I worry about the most. Is what are those people?
Yeah.
What are those people going to do? So anyway, it's the median loss runs about $90,000 across the whole big thing, where it's only like 24% of known losses in healthcare. But it's the downtime. It's the downtime. Patient care, revenue, and, where we look at liability and everybody's worried about HIPAA. No, it's the lawsuits. The contracts start flying. Incident response, still significant. You need to be prepared. And if you don't have incident response is more expensive if you don't plan for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just know that. So the bottom line for healthcare folks is review your insurance, especially how much you're covered for business interruption. Because sometimes lost business isn't even included. And don't just renew, review, and make sure that you have business continuity built in, because that means you're going to be up and running and you're not losing as much. And maintaining operational. And, the groups that we work with, it may not be ideal operations, but they're operating because they made a plan.
Well, for a lot of these, we've been talking all day today about financial impact, which can be also talked about as business impact. But it's very important to keep in mind that there are also people who are impacted. And that's not a study that we're doing, but there are, in healthcare, there are very real people that are impacted when there's downtime. So when the business is impacted, people are impacted. And that's the most important thing to consider and remember.
Yeah, and it's a broad, I don't know, at some point we may need to bring in somebody that says, look, here are all the things. You don't realize all the people that are impacted when there's a major crisis like this.
Yeah. I mean, you recall when Scripps was impacted years ago, and we saw it kind of unfolding live. People were talking about how they couldn't come in and get treatment that they had scheduled for. And they've been on, I've been waiting for 6 months to get this treatment. And now I can't get it because they're down.
And you get chemo patients who, what happens if I skip, one, because I know that, we went through this with my dad. It's like you have to have it every day, radiation treatment and those kind of things. So it's a absolutely terrifying situation for the patient. And I don't care whether you're a covered entity or a business associate. And in fact, I think it's more important for a business associate to understand that, because they don't deal with patients.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my my responsibility is twofold as an MSP to healthcare. One is to protect my clients and to try to keep them from ever having to use their insurance or have any kind of financial impact. But the other thing is I need to make sure that I protect me and my business so that I'm not a third-party risk any more than I have to be, because I'm always going to be a third-party risk. But I've got to bring that down as far as I can possibly bring it.
And yeah, that's actually the best way to put it. Is your job to reduce that risk that you're bringing into their environment. And I don't think enough business associates see it that way.
No.
You know, that they evaluate.
I don't think they even realize they're a risk at all until something happens.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about it that way. You know, the number of times we can hear stuff like that. So I think that it's quite telling. And then to be able to take these numbers and use them to weight the impacts on our SRA, that's the next trick. Is to say, okay, we've got the likelihood, and now we see where the big impacts are. How can we do this math? And I haven't done that math yet, but I will figure something out.
Yeah. And, the other thing to keep in mind is these numbers and information is always changing. That's why we go through these when they come out every year, because the target's always moving. The target is always moving.
Bobbing and weaving. That's it.
That's right. That's what it is. All right. That's our show for today, folks. Thanks for listening. Be sure to join us again next week. And remember, for Donna and myself, the HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.